I used to have a boss that used a term that was kind of like, I don't know, strange. He would say, whatever blows your skirt up. Now, I know that's some sort of idiomatic phrase, that is meant to say, well, whatever gets you excited or turned on. And playing chess is all about that. A person can't play chess unless they're motivated by something. Now, maybe they think they can just like be motivated by a relaxing game at a pub. If that's your motivation, that's your motivation. I just got through winning a blitz tournament, and I don't really play a lot of chess, but when I do, I find it very difficult to concentrate full bore. Concentration is painful. It's difficult. It takes physical stamina. To do something for even an hour or two is very draining. And so, why would a person want to do that to themselves? And you have to analyze what it is inside of you that makes you want to reach down and do your very best at anything. And chess is no exception. Chess is very hard, and it really takes it out of you, and when you lose, it's horrible. So, maybe it isn't horrible to some people. It's horrible to me. I hate losing. So, I'm aiming for certain things when I play, and I need to be able to motivate myself to do a good job at them. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time. One of the most interesting things that occurred to me once was I hadn't played chess in about a year, and I should have been playing right around my peak. And I went through something called the EST training, which is some sort of like California pop culture, Zen psychology stuff. My colleagues were doing it, in the business world. And it took me, quite a while, a year or two, to commit to do that training, and I went through it. And it's a combination of, philosophy and psychology and shock treatment and all kinds of things, as far as I can tell. Um, but I think it was a very valuable experience. And one of the things they talk about is unbrainwashing you. Somebody named Werner Erhard established this training. And I think he's fallen into some sort of disrepute these days, and I hope he's okay. But Werner Erhard trained lots of people, and you can count me among them. And after I was through with that, like I changed jobs, and I did all kinds of interesting things with my life. And basically, what they claim to have done is unbrainwash you. They've taken all of your predisposed ideas and thrown them in the trash so that you can see everything exactly for what it is in some sort of very fresh, present sense. The first chess tournament I played after I went through that training was a Masters tournament where they allowed experts in. Any people over 2,000 could play. And I played, and I beat the U.S. junior champion in that tournament. I beat a number of people in 23, 2400. In fact, I won the tournament. I won it on tiebreak with somebody else at the end. And I even, beat a player who I had terrible problems with in the past, some Serbian fellow. Didn't even speak English. So, at any rate, it was a very exciting multi-day tournament in a very distracting location, right in a kind of a place over a highway almost. It was very interesting. And I won this with lucid ease after going through that process. Now, another tournament comes to mind where I should say that I lived in a part of the world where at 9 o'clock in the morning it was still dark, and it got dark at 4 in the afternoon during winter days. So what would happen is I would go to these chess tournaments on Saturday, and I would start play in the darkness, and sometimes I wouldn't get up. I'd just get up to check the pairings and go to the next board, because the games would all run into each other pretty much. And I would start playing in the dark and end in the dark and not have gone to the bathroom and have left a room. Or I'd drank water or anything. And it was like no time had passed. I know that a lot of time had passed, and it was very draining, but I was young. And one of these tournaments comes to mind in particular because the tournament director hated me for a variety of reasons that I won't go into. It was nothing that I did that was obnoxious on purpose. It was more like I was young and stupid. But I didn't realize what was going on, but he gave me black 4 games in a row, 4 out of 4 blacks, and amazingly, I came out 4-0 and won the tournament. And I always remember that tournament because I played pretty well with the black pieces, so it wasn't a really big deal to me. And yet, it was obvious, in retrospect, he was trying to teach me some sort of lesson. This was before the day of computer pairings, also, so no one can blame it on a computer. But the concentration level that allowed me to play in darkness, literally in this lit up hall, this playing hall, to come in darkness, to leave in darkness, play 4 black rounds in a row, and not have anything really bother me, was super concentrative. Like it was like time and space had merged. It was like all those hours I spent doing that could have been compressed into an hour or two. Time in the mind was very different. Nowadays, what I'm motivated by is performance ratings. And performance ratings, you can play at a tournament and get a performance rating, and it depends on what your number is. At the end of the tournament, they'll show you what your tournament performance rating is, and my goal is, if I get a performance rating over, say, 2,400, I'm delighted. It's hard to do in some cases because you don't get the number of opponents you need to do that. But like today, my performance rating was about 2,300, but I didn't really play all that many tough people, so I'm not sure how they do that exactly. But I'm very happy with it. The win. I mean, let's face it, I don't get anything for it. There's no money. I wanted something, and there was 20, 30 participants. That's what motivates me. Winning makes you happy. Maybe something else motivates you. Maybe just creating an artistic masterpiece. But you need to be motivated to play. And if you're not passionate and motivated and have a real reason to do it, even hatred for losing, for instance, you're wasting your time. And something that occurs, I mentioned before I used to go to this tournaments with a fellow who was a state champion who would remind you of Sigmund Freud. And he would take layoffs from chess over periods of time because he was a professor and, he didn't play that often. And he would make comments while we were at these tournaments that he was getting stronger minute by minute. And I think that's completely true. He was in awe of what he could see as he came back into the game. In other words, at first you seem blind, even though you have a fairly decent rating, and he was like, I don't think he was rated 21 something. But realize this was, 1980s ratings, so inflation-wise, who knows what it would be today. And he would say, boy, was I blind. Look, boy, I'm really beginning to see things now. And, in other words, he's seeing things over the board that he was completely oblivious to in his first round or two. And as he's getting into it, all of a sudden, time in the mind starts to take over, and you start to live in a world of deep combinations. And you're starting to communicate with your opponent at a deep level. He's doing things that 5 moves into the combination, it's defeating something that you've done, that you've seen that you're doing. And the two of you might not even speak the same language, but you're communicating in a very deep space sort of sense. And people lose track of time when that goes on. And it becomes a wonderful sort of space. It's when time becomes space. I think it was Gurneman's telling that to Parsifal. So I think it's a wonderful thing that motivates me, and I love being in those spaces. And I hope this was helpful to somebody.